And we begin with the sex trafficking probe involving Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz, which continues to divide House Republicans, put some unbearable pressure on the once tight Gaetz-Trump relationship. And now tonight, for the first time, we are seeing one measure of the scandal's potential price tag. You see the headline there. Now, this matters because, remember, Congressman Gaetz has claimed that he's innocent. We've reported that every time we do the story. And he's also claimed that he's nothing more than basically a willing subject in a DOJ probe of someone else. He's even buying ad time to attack the media and predicting he'll be vindicated and that there's no real story here. But thanks to legally required campaign disclosures, the world is learning that Gaetz moved $85,000 intended originally for campaigning into his own legal defense. So something is costing him a lot as this probe goes forward, a probe that he says is going nowhere. Now, according to this filing, the fees started right after the initial indictment of Gaetz' associate. Now, Gaetz, for his part, has vowed to fight to the very end. He talked about this at his recent Defiant MAGA event.
I have not yet begun to fight for the country I love and for the nation that I know benefits from America First principles. I'm built for the battle, and I'm not going anywhere.
He is battling, but that's not all. A new Washington Post report on the tangled origins of this case includes the bizarre and frankly despicable revelation that a Gaetz ally took major steps to falsely smear a local teacher who was a political rival, falsely accusing him of being a pedophile. The plot included a fake letter, ostensibly but not really from a student. Ultimately, though, it boomeranged, landing that local tax official, Joel Greenberg, and now Gaetz, quote, in the crosshairs of a Justice Department investigation. Those investigators probing Greenberg, leading to the many charges that he faces today, which include alleged sex crimes. Greenberg, I should say, has pleaded not guilty to those charges, but his lawyer says they are likely negotiating a plea deal, which typically involves admitting some charges. Now, as this whole scandal stays in the news legally, on the politics side, Republican leaders in Washington are struggling with it. Leader Kevin McCarthy has been dodging questions about his knowledge of Representative Gaetz, who has now faced the opening of 2 House ethics probes. Others breaking with Gaetz. Today, a 3rd Republican House member says he won't take the congressman's money and is forking over any past campaign funds that are tainted by Gaetz to charity. Meanwhile, Congressman Gaetz' alliance with the most powerful Republican in his state, Governor DeSantis, under increasing strain because Republicans see Gaetz as a liability, according to new AP reporting. And those two, well, they used to buddy up and campaign together. Gaetz was even advising DeSantis' campaign during his now infamous Bahamas trip in 2018. Now the governor's office tells the press it has no comment on any cooperation with the Gaetz investigation over at DOJ. And the once MAGA-friendly congressman is learning the hard way that when you campaign with people like Donald Trump or DeSantis or even Sean Hannity, these things turn out to be pretty transactional because Gaetz needs each of those people more now than ever, and they are bailing, a contrast to the governor's prior love fest.
Congressman Gaetz here, who's been working really hard for the people of Northwest Florida.
Governor, and all the work we've done together, I've never been prouder.
I thought it'd be right to bring my good friend Ron DeSantis right here to Okaloosa County.
Congressman Gaetz and I have just, discussed, okay, he was at a lot of campaign events with me.
It's good to have a Navy guy like Governor DeSantis here.
I'm joined now by the Washington Post's Matt Zapotosky, who was the author here on that reporting about the origins of the Gaetz probe. Very interesting stuff. And MSNBC analyst and a Democratic strategist, Juanita Tolliver. Thanks to both of you for being here. As I mentioned, every time we report this story, Congressman Gaetz denies all wrongdoing. And yet, Matt, you seem to have been pulling on some threads that are interesting and that there may be some scandal here, even if, as mentioned, nothing's been charged, nothing indicted against the congressman yet. What did you find?
Yeah, we found kind of how this investigation jumped from this guy you mentioned, Joel Greenberg, into Matt Gaetz. And the long and short of it is they're investigating this guy, Joel Greenberg, a local tax collector in Seminole County who kind of rises in Republican politics at the same time that Gaetz is elected to Congress in 2016. They become fast friends. People who know the men say they would party together. Joel Greenberg would arrange women for Matt Gaetz. It's in the course of this Greenberg investigation, they arrest Greenberg on charges of basically trying to smear a teacher who's running against him, the tax collector, with this fake allegation. When they arrest him, they take his electronics, they search through his records. And it's in going through those, they find evidence that points at Gates, including payments to women on some sort of electronic, cash app type deal. So that's what is pointing at Gates. It is
Matt,
important to note he denies this.
Just pausing on that, I want you to continue, but just there, that was such a striking part of your story. This is pretty serious stuff. We're not even mentioning the teacher's name because we don't see any reason to associate the name with what was a debunked claim. But just to be crystal clear, this Greenberg fellow, who's now facing a lot of heat, and if he has evidence on Gates, he has a lot of reason to cooperate, according to experts we've spoken to. You're saying what really got him first in this much trouble was this sort of despicable and sloppy effort to take what your reporting suggests is just a random, independent, innocent teacher and falsely accuse them of being a pedophile?
So that was the basis of the first charges against Greenberg. When he was first indicted back in June, there were 2 counts, and it was just related to this teacher. But I should point out, there had been allegations swirling around Greenberg, mismanaging money in the tax office, some other stuff for years predating, and he had retained a lawyer to represent him in some kind of federal inquiry dating back to like April of 2019, before he smeared the teacher. So it is certainly possible that eventually the feds would have gotten onto him anyway, but the teacher is kind of what gives them the hook to go arrest him, and then everything sort of cascades from there.
Yeah. I'm going to bring Juanita in momentarily. For the reporting purposes, though, I just want to read again from a Gates spokesperson, in addition to the blanket denial I mentioned. They pose a question, partly implicating people. I don't know if you remember, Matt, the Talking Heads song, People Like Us. Do you remember that one?
No. Sure don't.
Well, it's people like us. It's people like us that talk on the radio, or in this case, television. Basically, it's an attack on people like you, Matt, and people like me. They're saying the media is unfair. And in the interest of fairness, I'm going to read the statement. Is the media, quote, just going to continue running the same anonymously sourced stories every day, repackaged to avoid admitting the obvious, that over the past 2 weeks, they hyped charges and allegations that Representative Gates has repeatedly denied, and there remains zero evidence of, end quote. So as I say, that's kind of hitting me, kind of hitting you, or anyone doing this work. I'm curious your response to the Gates office's view that at this point, the Washington Post is pulling on the same stuff or not working with real evidence.
So look, not all of the sources in that story are anonymous, right? We talked to the teacher on the record. We talked to the teacher's lawyer on the record. We reviewed probably hundreds of pages of indictments, of police reports, of audit reports of this county tax collector's office. We did talk to some people anonymously, which we commonly do. And because of the political sensitivity of this situation, we sort of have to do that. Time will tell whether he gets charged or not. I'm not sort of drawing a conclusion there. I'm just reporting on an investigation. He says that's going to go nowhere, and we'll see. But, what we're reporting, the facts we're reporting are real, and his statement doesn't sort of contest that. It just sort of objects to the fact that they're being reported.
Juanita?
I think what's striking about all of this, Ari, is per Matt's reporting, Greenberg lit a fire with a disgusting lie and its disgusting accusation that essentially led investigators into his own potentially criminal behavior that has resulted in 33 federal charges. I think it's explicitly alarming that there's this foundation of his work as a tax collector to make that claim against the primary opponent. But then as you start to unravel the entire situation, pulling in someone like Representative Gates, pulling in other donors from across the state, other political appointees into this investigation who are being questioned right now. And I guess that yields the question of what is going on in Florida that this many people are being questioned by federal investigators in connection with this bigger issue that let's be real, centers on sexual trafficking and abuse of minors. And it's truly disgusting, truly troubling. I think, though, it's also troubling is what we've seen from GOP members in Congress Congress, where they might not be necessarily circling the wagons around someone like Gaetz, but they are not doing anything to raise further questions about his behavior, which has been reported to multiple outlets, whether it's showing indecent images on the House floor or bragging about his escapades. And so someone like Gaetz has been running around Congress for years now with no accountability from his own party. And I'm not shocked that we're not seeing any form of accountability now when he's under federal investigation.
And Juanita, what do you think it says about the nature of this whole MAGA situation? Because Gaetz got very prominent on Fox News and being friends with the president. He was a very junior congressman. Now he doesn't seem to be able to phone a friend for anything.
Like you said at the open, Ari, it's fully transactional. They will use you as long as you're an asset, but the moment you're not an asset, you're fine to be discarded. And so that's what I'm waiting for. When is that inflection point when we have more details coming out from this investigation? I hope it'll be before formal charges, considering that he sits on the Judiciary Committee, the committee that provides oversight for the Department of Justice, which is running this investigation. But I'm doubtful that they will do anything besides wait and see, or as McCarthy says, Gaetz said he's innocent, and that's enough for him right now.
Yeah, all really interesting stuff. We've been covering every aspect of it. Viewers can make up their own minds as we go. Juanita Tolliver and Matt Zapotosky kicking us off tonight. Thanks to both of you. Hey, I'm Ari Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.